Chapter 19, Echoes of the Past, A Mother's Love. Aika stood alone in the darkness, her heart heavy with sorrow as memories flooded her mind like a torrential downpour. She closed her eyes, allowing the past to wash over her, transporting her back to a time long gone. In the dim light of her memory, she saw herself as she once was, a recluse, a shut-in, cocooned in the safety of her room, her only company the glow of her computer screen and the comforting hum of her mother's voice. Together, they existed in a world of their own making, shielded from the harsh realities of the outside world by the walls of their home. But amidst the solitude, there was a profound loneliness, a yearning for connection that gnawed at Aika's soul. She longed for the warmth of human touch, for the companionship of friends, for the simple joys of laughter and love that seemed forever out of reach. And then, like a beacon in the darkness, her mother appeared, a guiding light in the midst of her despair. With unwavering love and unwavering acceptance, she embraced Aika for who she truly was, supporting her through every step of her journey of self-discovery. Together, they navigated the trials and tribulations of Aika's transition, from the exhilarating highs of newfound identity to the crushing lows of doubt and insecurity. Through it all, her mother stood by her side, a pillar of strength and a source of unconditional love. Aika's heart swelled with bittersweet nostalgia as she recalled their moments together, the shopping trips for clothes and underwear, the shared laughter over silly jokes, the quiet moments of understanding and acceptance. Her mother's pride in her transition was a beacon of hope in a world fraught with uncertainty, a reminder that she was loved and cherished just as she was. But alongside the memories of love and acceptance, there lurked a shadow of regret, a nagging sense of guilt that gnawed at Aika's soul. She remembered the moments of doubt and hesitation, the times when she questioned her worthiness of her mother's love, the fear that she would never be enough. And then, like a cruel twist of fate, her mother fell ill, a sudden and unexpected turn of events that shattered their world and plunged Aika into the depths of despair. In the blink of an eye, everything changed, and Aika found herself grappling with the harsh reality of loss and regret. As she stood in the darkness, her heart heavy with grief, Aika's thoughts turned to the moments she would never have again, the sound of her mother's laughter, the warmth of her embrace, the comfort of her presence. She longed to turn back time, to rewrite the script of their lives, to undo the mistakes that had led them to this point. But try as she might, Aika knew that she could never reclaim what was lost. Her mother was gone, and with her, a piece of Aika's heart. And as the tears flowed freely down her cheeks, Aika realized that she would carry the weight of her grief with her always, a constant reminder of the love she had lost and the pain of her regrets. In the silence of the cavern, broken only by the sound of her own sobs, Aika's grief overwhelmed her. She sank to her knees, her body racked with pain as the weight of her loss bore down on her like a crushing wave. With each breath, it felt as though her heart was being torn from her chest, leaving behind a hollow ache that echoed in the depths of her soul. She wept for the moments they would never share, for the words left unspoken, for the future that would never be. She wept for the emptiness that now filled her days, for the loneliness that consumed her every waking moment. And as she cried out into the darkness, her voice a raw, anguished wail, she felt as though she were drowning in a sea of sorrow, unable to find the surface, unable to find her way back to shore. Her tears mingled with the dirt and grime of the cavern floor, staining her cheeks with streaks of salt and sorrow. And as she curled into herself, clutching at the fabric of her clothes as though it were the only anchor keeping her tethered to reality, she felt a sense of despair unlike anything she had ever known. For in that moment, as she lay broken and alone in the darkness, Aika realized that no amount of time or distance could ever fill the void left by her mother's absence. No words of comfort could ease the pain that gnawed at her soul, no gestures of sympathy could mend the shattered pieces of her heart. And so, she allowed herself to feel the full weight of her grief, to embrace the agony that threatened to consume her whole. For in her tears, in her cries, in her anguish, she found a flicker of connection, a tether to the woman she had loved so dearly, a bond that transcended even death itself. As Aika wept, her sorrow echoing through the cavern, a voice echoed in the depths of her mind, a dark, seductive whisper that promised relief from her pain. It was the voice of her master, Vladis, his tall shadow looming over her like a specter of death. my child," his voice murmured, soft and soothing, "let me ease your suffering. Let me take away the pain that grips your heart, that consumes your soul. I can make it all go away, my dear. I can make you forget, make you numb to the agony that plagues you." Aika lifted her tear-stained face, her eyes searching the darkness for any sign of her master's presence. And there he stood, his form shrouded in shadow, his touch a cold, comforting presence on her shoulders. "Can you do that, master?" she whispered, her voice choked with grief. "Can you take away the pain?" Vladis smiled, a smile devoid of warmth or kindness, his eyes gleaming with a predatory light. "Of course, my child," he purred. "I can make it all better. But you must let go, my dear. You must surrender yourself to me completely. Only then can I free you from the torment that binds you." With a trembling breath, Aika nodded, her heart heavy with sorrow and longing. "I'll do anything, master," she whispered. "Anything to make the pain stop." As Vladis commanded her to stand, Aika stumbled forward, her limbs heavy with the weight of her grief. With a trembling breath, she struggled to rise, her muscles straining against the invisible bonds of despair that held her captive. But then, as if sensing her struggle, Vladis reached out to her, his touch gentle yet firm. His hand enveloped hers, his touch like a lifeline in the darkness, offering her a fleeting moment of solace amidst the storm of her emotions. For just a moment, Aika forgot the pain that gnawed at her heart as she looked into Vladis's eyes, seeing in them a warmth and understanding that she had never known before. And as his magic began to envelop her, she felt a shiver run down her spine, the air around them crackling with the power that pulsed through her veins. The mist of his magic swirled around them, weaving a dark tapestry that seemed to dance and sway with a life of its own. Aika's breath caught in her throat as she felt the tendrils of darkness wrap around her hand, the sensation sending a thrill of anticipation coursing through her. Slowly, inexorably, Vladis's magic worked its way up her arm, sending shivers of delight and fear cascading through her body. With each passing moment, the darkness crept higher, enveloping her in its embrace until she was completely consumed by its icy touch. As the magic took hold, Aika felt herself slipping away, her sense of self melting into the darkness that now surrounded her. But even as she felt herself being pulled deeper into its depths, she clung to the faint glimmer of hope that she would see her mother again. In the midst of the swirling darkness, amidst the suffocating embrace of Vladis's magic, Aika held on to the memory of her mother's smile, the warmth of her embrace, the gentle touch of her hand. It was a fragile thread of hope, a beacon of light in the sea of darkness that threatened to consume her whole. But even as she clung to that tiny spark of hope, Aika felt it slipping away, the darkness closing in around her, suffocating her, leaving her empty and alone. And as the last vestiges of her hope were extinguished, Aika surrendered to the darkness, allowing it to consume her whole. As Aika surrendered to the darkness, allowing it to consume her whole, she felt a fleeting sense of despair wash over her, a final echo of the grief that had consumed her heart. But just as she prepared to be engulfed by the darkness, completely, Vladis's voice cut through the void, a sharp contrast to the oppressive silence that surrounded her. "Well done, my dear pet," he said, his voice echoing in the darkness. "You have proven yourself worthy of my favor." As Aika felt the gentle touch on her shoulder, a warmth unlike anything she had ever known flooded through her, dispelling the cold emptiness of the darkness. Slowly, she turned to face Vladis, expecting to see the enigmatic smile that often adorned his lips. But to her astonishment, it wasn't Vladis who stood before her, it was her mother. Tears welled up in Aika's eyes as she gazed upon the spectral form of her mother, her heart overflowing with a mixture of joy and disbelief. There she was, smiling down at Aika with eyes full of love and warmth, her arms outstretched in a familiar gesture of embrace. For a moment, Aika could hardly believe her eyes. It was as if time itself had stopped, as if the darkness had parted to reveal a glimpse of the happiness she had thought lost forever. And in that moment, all of the pain and sorrow that had weighed so heavily on Aika's heart melted away, replaced by an overwhelming sense of peace and contentment. With trembling hands, Aika reached out to her mother, her fingers brushing against the ethereal form before her. And as her mother's arms enveloped her in a warm embrace, Aika felt a rush of emotion unlike anything she had ever experienced. In that embrace, Ika found solace, comfort, and love, the same unwavering love that had guided her through every trial and tribulation, every moment of joy and sorrow. And as she clung to her mother, her heart overflowing with gratitude, Ika knew that no matter what darkness lay ahead, she would always carry the memory of her mother's love with her, a beacon of light in the darkest of times. As Vlada stepped back, allowing Ika to be enveloped in her mother's loving embrace, Ika felt like a little girl again, safe and protected in the arms of the one person who had always been there for her. In that moment, the world around her seemed to vanish, leaving only the warmth of her mother's love surrounding her like a comforting cocoon. With tears streaming down her cheeks, Ika hugged her mother tightly, feeling the familiar warmth of her embrace wash over her like a soothing balm. It was a moment she had longed for, a moment she had thought she would never experience again. And as she held on to her mother, Ika knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would always carry this memory with her, the memory of a mother's love, unwavering and eternal. In that fleeting moment, Ika found peace, solace, and the reassurance that no matter how dark the path may seem, the light of her mother's love would always guide her way. And as she closed her eyes, savoring the embrace of her mother's spirit, Ika whispered a silent prayer of gratitude, knowing that she was truly blessed to have experienced such boundless love in her lifetime.